The world gets crazy sometimes. It's crazy all the time. And fellas, sometimes we just need to get away. And down south, we go hunting and fishing to get away. This is the Backroads Podcast. Let's do this. Welcome to the Backroads Podcast. Now, here's your host, Chris Hobbs.
Well, welcome in to the program. We're back with Chris Hobbs right here in studio. And my buddy Lee Pitts is on the road. Got a big tournament this weekend. And Lee, how you doing?
On the road again.
I just can't wait. They might turn it off if they hear that.
Oh my Lord, man! I tell you what, it's just it's the time of year. Everybody, these lakes that we're going to, and when we come to town, it's like old Charlie Daniels song. Well, I won't go into that, but anyway, we got 225 boats in these deals, and most everybody practices. They'll bring, they'll split up, because you can cover more ground with two boats. So we're bringing, a ton of traffic to these lakes, and man, it gets beat to pieces. It's not like you can say, well, I'm gonna go and find some secret stuff. These guys with the AVT, man, that's the best of the best. I mean, they roll into town, and we're gonna pick it and find it and turn every shell over and every brush top over and see what we can dig out of it. So it's work. I mean, it is really, really work. A lot of people don't understand it. I'll talk to some guys and they'll say, oh man, you got the dream job. That's wonderful. I'd love to go. You go to different lakes and you sit there on the bank and throw your cork out there and wait till it goes under. No, that ain't how it works.
No, you got to work that cork a little bit. You just can't leave it out there.
You got to bobble that cork.
That's right. And look, sometimes the parking lot is a long way from the bank, and when you got a cooler full of beer and minnows and worms, that's work.
Well, and that's what they don't understand too, because a lot of people, when they go fishing, that's what they're thinking. All right, this is a professional ran deal. When we roll into town, there is none of that. I mean, it's you put that life jacket on. It's just like when we start official practice days with the AVT, and they are strict. I mean, you don't say, oh, I forgot to put my life jacket on and buckle it. Well, guess what? You're disqualified. Or I forgot I ran down the lake and, man, my life jacket was in my lap. That's not how that goes. This is a professional deal. It's a professional tournament trail that you will be held accountable. If you break rules, you will be held accountable for it. And what we're out here doing, all of us guys, it's a business to us. We treat this like a business. I'm sitting here in my truck right now, and if you can hear it, I've got the air conditioner running. My buddy's in here getting our room, getting it all set up. I'm out here hooked up to the boat, and now is when our work starts. I've been the last 14 hours either in a truck or in a boat, and we just got to the motel, and now we'll put another 3+ hours on relining. What we found out today, trying to tune that for what we'll practice again tomorrow, and hoping we get the color, the depth, what type of bait, whether it be a big wobble crankbait, a tight wobble, a jig out there deep or something. We got to put all that together, because the name of the game is we want to put something in our pocket and go to the house.
Yeah, that is the name of the game. Get a check.
Being out here in fellowship is great and fine. I can see these guys when I go to the house, and we'll go up there at my place and hang out, and we'll have a good time. But out here, it's it's a different beast. We gotta get it, because we're trying to take money home and put groceries on the table.
There you go. Well, how'd you do today? I mean, did you catch any?
Man, I gotta brag on myself a little bit.
Well, go right ahead.
If I was starving to death, I could have fed my family today. That's a plus. You got to look at every plus. You
That's
can't
right.
be a negative Nelly. You got to look at the pluses. I caught a world record drum on a jig right off the bat. Wow. Okay. Which that does not count in a tournament. But I told everybody, I said, man, I caught a giant drum. Got my heart pumping. Ate a black and blue jig up. Put that Andy Montgomery rod to the test. Bowed him up. About a 20-pound drum.
God.
Good job, Lee. All right. Then I caught a so-so drum on a crankbait. I caught 5 or 6 little old 12, 14-inch bass. But then I caught a great skillet-sized catfish on a crankbait that they're not supposed to hit. So, you got to look at the positives. I could have fed some people today.
Was it a blue cat?
No, it was one of them old flatheads.
Oh, yeah, I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a pass. That's a hard pass for me.
But it's one of those deals.
But
like I said,
they were biting. Fish were biting.
Yeah, I mean, they were biting. And the whole thing is in practice, and I try not to get caught up and let the first day practice kind of determine my whole outcome, because what I did today, I eliminated some places that I don't have to worry about. And that's the whole thing with practice. There's so many of these guys, they'll go out and they'll boast and brag, and they'll win practice day. They'll win practice day every time you go somewhere. And I said, man, that's great. You won. You called them in practice. You won. How much money did you win? Well, they don't pay nothing for that. Bingo.
Bam.
Bam. Ba-bam. Ba-bam.
Well, and it goes back to what we've talked about many, many times on this program, is the electronics. If you're out sore mouthing fish and you got good electronics on your boat, you're making an error in judgment.
And I will say this though, and you're exactly right. You're right. And I put 100% faith in my hummingbirds. Okay. I'm a hummingbird man. I love them. I've been running hummingbirds for 20 something years. And the one thing I do, and I may not need to do it, but sometimes I'll check just to see what size they are. Because you can tell, even on these, the electronics are so finely tuned these days. And with your forward-facing sonars, your 360s, with your hummingbirds, you've got all this side image and down image and the different things. You can pretty much pinpoint where they're sitting, what they're doing, and I'm not this skilled, but a lot of guys can tell you how they're positioned up, if they're going to feed or not. Me, when I see them, I get excited. It's like, when I see these fish on my graph, oh, there they are. There they are. Here we go. We're fixing to get with it. But sometimes I have to kind of that old school guy in me still has to say, well, we'll throw out there a little bit. Let's just check them, see what size they are.
Yeah, I do get that. But that reminds me of Rodney went fishing with a friend of his that's got the top of the line hummingbirds on his boat, and he is so good with those hummingbirds that they pinpointed fish. They fished a little night tournament over here on Neely Henry. They pinpointed fish. You could see their tail, swinging on the hummingbird. And he knew, based on the direction they were turned, they went down the river, just a little bit, and came back and got in a position where they could run that bait by where he knew they would bite. So he positioned his boat so the bait ran by the fish exactly where they wanted it, and that's how they caught them. That's crazy.
Amazing. I mean, that is amazing.
That is crazy. Well, Lee, we don't have any backroad news this week, and I
what?
Regret to inform
you
y'all.
said last week that may be a good thing, because you said only the crazy stuff we get to cover.
Well,
So that is a good thing. Everybody's acting right, doing right, and we're catching fish and behaving ourselves.
I guess so. But, it's disappointing to me because I really enjoy that.
I love somebody acting a fool.
I like these crazy stories.
Well, I mean, it always, because I hear stuff like that, and I think to myself, man, hey, I ain't that bad. I'm okay. I didn't do nothing that crazy. I'm all right.
You haven't made the Backroad News, so you're good.
Oh, man, don't talk about it. Don't say it. Don't talk about it, because it'll be next week. Hey, man, we fired Lee. Did you hear about what happened at Lake Wheeler last week?
Now,
so
look,
don't say that.
I could do you with some Backroad News, but I promised I wouldn't, and it wouldn't be about you.
Okay, good deal.
You just happened to be there, but
yeah.
I promised I wouldn't talk
it's
about
like
it.
The old saying, what had happened was.
So I won't talk about it. All right, let's get into our topic for the week, and we're going, because it's getting to be that time. It's getting close, and that's summertime crankbaits.
Man, I'm going to tell you something. Today, we had a little cloud cover this morning, a little bit of breeze, and it felt good. I'm still up there shallow. I'm pitching, flipping, doing a little spinnerbait, things like that. All of a sudden, 9 o'clock, that sun popped out. Hey, as they say, turn up the heat. They turned up the heat. I'm talking about.
That's Alabama.
And that's when those fish know it too. They start backing off a little bit, trying to get, and I love that summertime cranking. I mean, I do. I love throwing a crankbait. Even in the winter, fall, or whatever, it just changes what bait you're throwing. But I like cranking. I like moving. I like kicking it and let's go. I mean, I'm a mover and a shaker.
You're a power man.
I'm a power man. I'm a mover and shaker.
There you go. Well, all right, let's get into it. Let's start with the bills. Not Buffalo Bills, but
Bills. Man, I got so many bills. If you want to talk about bills.
Not those bills either.
Oh.
We'll start a GoFundMe page for your bills. How about that?
No, they'd say, you on your own, brother.
All right. Square bills. I know we've talked about square bills before, but square bills versus the more rounded bills this time of year, what's your go-to?
Each one of them have their own place. I like that square bill, as I call it. I like to go square lipping in the fall. I like it where I can get up there tight, beat and bang around, and bounce it off rocks, bounce it off the stumps, and even I like to. It's almost like I'm flipping with it, and I'm talking fall right now.
I got you.
Square bill kind of comes off a little bit summertime. You're looking at more of the deeper divers. I like the DTs. You got your 6, 8, 10 footers. DT4, I love them. Tennessee Rivers in the spring, just ticking the top of that grass. But it's each one of them have their own place. Today I caught some fish cranking. More or less, I was doing like your Little Johns. That is really, it's a square bill, but it's a flat sided, and you can almost you're finessing this bait through this grass. You're ticking the top of that grass, and I'm 4-6 foot, shaking it a little bit, making it dance around like a minnow, just kind of playing through there. And like it's just one of those things. Some of the deeper fish, I love the big bills. You got these baits that'll get down there 18, 20 foot deep, your DD22s, the Little Johns, the deep diver Little Johns. You can get that bait down and hold it down there deep and hit that bottom and bump those stumps and bump the shell beds and things like that deep. It's just what time of year it is. They all have their place.
Right. Now, we're going to get into rods in a minute, but I did want to ask this quick question about rods on deeper running crankbaits. Do you use a different rod for say a Norman 22 than you would for a DT4 or DT6?
I do, and what it is, you can tell the difference in it. I'll have a lot of clients that I take out, and they've got 3 or 4 rods that here's my rod for, they're all about the same. I said, what you got to do now, if you're precise and throwing around, you may have a 6.6, a 6.10, something with a medium heavy with a moderate tip, or even a fast tapered tip on some of this, because you're not making those long casts with it. You're precise. You're working corners of a dock. You're working around brush or something like that, throwing it precise deals. That's fine. But if you pick up that DD22 and you're going to go out there and chunk wind all day long, you better have the equipment to do it, or you're going to come home and go to bed real early, because it will whip you down. I love a little longer rod. I still like a little bit of backbone to it. But what you've got to do with those big deep plugs, it's almost like a fly rod fisherman. You're going to pull that back. I like a 7 foot, even a 7.3. Sometimes I may be medium heavy, moderate tip, and throwing a 7+ foot rod, just because I'll let that rod load up behind me, and you don't have to manhandle it. You can, when you pull that rod back to cast it, you got to give it just a second to let it load up. And then when you apply the pressure to come back forwards, you're launching that bait. All right, that's that part of it. But the other part, you can aim that rod tip down to the water, put it low, and you're not bending over or turning crooked. You can stand there and crank that, let the rod absorb all that pressure, getting that bait down. You're not trying to manhandle it with a 6.6 rod and it's just whipping you. Let that rod do all the work for you. I love it. And I'm going back to Lou's right now. Lou's has rods for any application that you want to fish. They got a rod for it. They got 2 rods for it. Okay. I really like the David Fritz cranking rods. I like some of these Mark Rose rods that are, for the deeper applications. It's something that you can really, really let that rod do all the work for you and take the pressure off of your back and your shoulders, and it really makes for a better day.
Well, I think you answered all my rod questions with that advice. That's good advice, because I've been there. I mean, before I got to know about different rod types for different applications of fishing, I mean, I'd go out there with that 6.6 rod and throw a deep running crankbait, and you're right, it'll slap wear you out.
It'll beat you down. I mean, you'll sit in the back seat and say, I'm done, I quit, But I'm going to tell you something else, too. Look at some of these rods also, and you'll think, oh, man, they messed up on the trigger on this one. They messed up. Every rod's got that trigger that comes out that you hold on to.
Right.
They've got that. But what you're looking at, they're designed for the application that you're going to use it for. And I was throwing, it's a Fritz cranking rod. And when I first got it, I thought, man, I'm not really sure about this rod. Is putting a blister on my finger the way I hold my spinnerbait rods and my some of my jig rods, and all of a sudden I got it. No, this is designed for your palm to cup that reel, so when you have it more in the back of your fingers instead of the first 2. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, what's he talking about with the fingers? But the way they have the trigger on this rod is designed for you to cup that reel, which helps with your wrist, aim it down, and deep crank. That's what that's designed to do. And it's something that when you look at it, you just think, well, I throw a spinnerbait this way, and I hold it in between my pointer finger and my middle finger. Nope. the other one's designed to cup your reel. So it's all about the design of the rod, how that rod and how the taper of that rod reacts to the bait that you're throwing. You know, you don't want to throw one of these long 7+ with a little old square bill around the ox. It's not designed for that. The more 610s, you know, medium heavy, a little bit more faster taper. That way you're being in more control of that bait at a short distance. It's kind of confusing, but once you think about it, it's not, and you'll get it. But you know, the rod designs have come a long way from the old bamboo cork handle, where here's your rod, and you've got a big old wide spool with a little old pearl handle on it that you can't even. Well, back then they didn't have buzz baits, but you can't keep nothing up top.
Right.
And I might have got off track on that one. I may have got off track on, but I kind of, you know, in my mind, I get talking about rods, and then I go, ooh, here we go.
That's great advice, and maybe that's something we can kind of do when we get to the point where we're doing some videos. Is we'll just kind of set you in the boat and let you talk about, you know, different rods, applications, how to hold them.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great to, you know, especially people just getting into it.
Yeah, I had some young guys this week, matter of fact, and we got out and started out shallow. We had a little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, and I stayed in the grass. And these guys, they were not love fishing, just getting into fishing. Older guys, I say they weren't kids, you know, they were in college. But what they were wanting to do, they were wanting to use spinning gear for some of your, what I call up in your face. You know, hey, we're flipping, pitching, up in your face, that short line and stuff that I can't say, I'm not going to say you can't do that, because you can, but you've got to have a little bit more equipment, because you're on a short line. When you stick, a lot of people look at me and say, Lee, you really explode on them when they hit that jig and they're shallow. I said, yep, because here's what I want. I don't want to stick him and say, oh, look at him, he's running around, he's doing all this and that, because there's too many obstacles he can get me tangled up in. When I bust him, I want to cut him a cartwheel, and he's coming my way. You know?
Get him in the boat.
It's like that old song, you know, you playing for fun, I'm playing to eat. So I want him coming my way.
There you go. That's
Have
true.
you ever heard that song, The Wolf?
What?
The Wolf?
The who?
I don't know who sings. Anyway, that's what he's saying. You playing for fun, I'm playing to eat.
I hear you.
Yeah. I always go back to songs. Man, I don't know. I don't want to get spun out on I got scolded on the last one.
Why?
My wife said I kind of got a little too far out there.
She's going to have to stop listening.
Yeah. She did like a wagon train. She grabbed them bridles and said, oh, boy.
Because look, when you get done with your tournaments and you're done, you don't have trips every day, and you get rested, we're gonna go harder at it.
Oh yeah. And here's what I want. I want us to go do a show over there at the Big Pond when them flipping fish really get to doing it, because you can take some aggressions out. When you got that big old flipping stick, that big broom handle in your hand, and you pitch it in there, and one grabs it, oh, baby. My buddy that fished with me, he said, man, your feet come 2 foot off the ground.
I believe it.
I like to jerk them.
And that's some power right there, brother, because you are not a small man.
Yeah. I like to hear that braid go,
All right, let's switch gears and go to watercolor versus crankbait color. So say you pull up to a lake, clear water, what's your go-to?
You're going to go to more of a neutral kind of color. And just I say that sometimes that bright chartreuse and a little bit of orange is still good in that clean water. I call it clean water. But a lot of times you're going to go to more of a translucent color, not as bold as you would in let's say your stained water, where your blackback chartreuse, orange belly, chartreuse sides with a little orange throat patch, and some of your more bolder colors that stand out better in that stain. It's like on our Coosa Trail, Coosa Trail of Lakes, chain of lakes. You're looking at your green pumpkins with chartreuse on them, on your plastics, black and blues with your jigs, things like that. And then also you're looking at with your crankbaits that I love a blackback chartreuse. I love a blueback. That's something that in that stained water they can distinguish it more. And I like a little bit more of a thump in that stained water. Something that puts off a little bit more vibration, a little bit more thump to it, where they can not only see it, but they can feel it. And that's what kind of triggers that. A lot of times, like Smith Lake, some of these clear lakes, you're looking at even throwing a spook or something like that. You may have a clear spook with where you can look at this bait. Now, when I say a spook, that's topwater plug. That's a topwater dancing. It looks like an injured minnow. You may have a bait that you can look at it and see the interior rattles. You can see the wires that connect everything. There's maybe some eyeballs on it, maybe a little bit of blue flake, but it's very translucent. You can't really see anything, but that's what they want. The water's so clear, if they get a real good look at it, they'll turn from it. Clark's Hill, places like that. It's just that they don't want to get a good look at that bait. Okay. And it's crazy when I say they don't want to get a good look at it. If they get a good look at it, they're not going to hit it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And a lot of people that are listening to us, they're saying, I don't know what he's talking about. I had a lady one time, and I was trying to teach her throwing a offshore jig, and her husband and them they're fishing. I said, look, throw it out there, watch your line. When it hits, the line's going to go slack, and then you just kind of barely creep it. Just crawl it across the bottom. You're going to creep it. And she would throw it out there and start reeling. I said, no, you're not getting it. Throw it out there. When it hits, the line will go slack, blah, 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 blah. And finally she said, oh, you mean let it lay on the ground? And I said, yeah, let it lay on the ground. See, my fishing slang and what she was interpreting wasn't the same. So when I told her, yeah, let it lay on the ground, then she got it.
And then she whacked them. All right, let's go muddy. And I got two parts to this question, but let's just start with muddy.
Muddy?
Muddy water.
Let's do it.
What do you go to? You get to, like, over here in Neely Henry, the amount of rains we had in the spring was crazy. So the river here stayed muddy a lot longer than it was stained. Right. If you have to fish, or if you just want to fish, but the water's muddy, what do you go to, crankbait wise?
Okay, well, you kind of cut me off on what I was going to tell you.
Oh, my bad.
If that water's muddy,
go home.
No, because you can catch them muddy. Probably I'm going to get up tighter, even if it's warm weather. I like a blackback chartreuse, blueback chartreuse, something with that chartreuse orange in it, and I want something that's going to put off a lot of vibrations. And I'm not going to go deep. I'm going to stay shallow because most of the time, that muddy water, and I know we're talking about crankbaits, but if it's muddy and that water's moving on the Coosa, I'm either going to have a blade or I'm going to have a jig in my hand. So that's me.
Well, and this is the second part of the question. A lot of times when you have muddy conditions and they start to clear up, you'll have that. If you go to a mouth of a cove or a cut or whatever you like to call it, a lot of times you'll have a mud line. You know, one part, you know, the outside where the actual, you know, the creek runs through the river and has that current. Sometimes that'll clean up a little bit before the other, and you'll have that mud line. And I've heard many conversations about this as far as people's opinion on where you set up, what you throw. You throw to the mud, reel it back. You throw to the clear, reel it back. What's your opinion on that?
Those fish, and I'm going to go back to my childhood right here. We used to fish a lot of ponds. You know, we went and we fished a whole lot of ponds, and we had a little golf course pond that we fished, and it was early spring, had some hard rains, and as kids, you know, you're going to go fishing. It doesn't matter. You're going fishing. But we got on one of the best days I ever had in my life, and just like you said, there was a mud line. Fresh water coming in to the lake, everything's muddy, and it just kind of pushed it out like a little cloud. All the bait fish were in that mud line, and they were trying to feed on whatever was blowing in from the fresh water. The fish were following. And we, back in these days, sassy shads, I guess that was the closest thing to a swim bait we had, but we were throwing sassy shads. We stood on both sides of this creek going in, and me and a buddy of mine, we probably caught 70 bass apiece one afternoon, 2 to 5 pounds. Dang. Every fish in that pond was setting up, and they were in that mud line waiting for all the shad to come moving through that clear water. And it was just one of those amazing deals. And what we were, it was all the same depth, all the same lake, but they got in that mud line, that shade line, and used it for an ambush point. And you could just throw it into the mud, coming into the clear, coming down the seam, whatever. You know, we're out there, we're on the banks. But it was amazing how those fish were reacting to that mud line and one way or the other setting up on it.
So really, you want to set up, and if you're not catching them, if you know they're there, you're not catching them throwing from the mud to the clear water, you just want to adjust until you find the way they want it.
Yeah, just play with it. I mean, and that's like anything. You know, find the angles they're setting up, and that's kind of like with my dock fishing for crappie. You look at this, and you look at the angles, and you see how they're setting up, how they're positioned. That's how they want it. They only want it, you know, they know what's going on. They know how this is. So they only want it, as you can set up on that right there. You know, they're setting up to feed on that, how the current is pushing it through. So they'll tell you how they want it.
Gotcha. Well, you know, the old birds that get together and they get back there, and it sounds like a bunch of hens back there, but it's men hens, you know, and they get to talking about that kind of stuff. And one guy's got an opinion, this is the way to do it, and this guy's got an opinion, this is the way to do it. So now I can get in there amongst them and tell them how to really do it.
Well, and that too is here's what's so great about fishing. They're telling how they've been productive doing it.
That's true.
And so let's say a week later, it's a different way. So these guys are telling how they're productive doing it. And that's what's so cool about getting a bunch of guys. And that's what I love about these tackle shops. I love about the marinas. I love about, y'all store. Everybody has where they have crushed them, and they know that's how you do it. Does it work every day? No, but it did that day.
That's man. I'm telling you,
it did that
that's
day.
The truth. That's the truth. And look, the they come in there. Old Rusty Burrs, is in there, and
and I'm gonna tell you something. Rusty knows how to catch them.
he does.
He knows how to catch them every day.
And he tells them, no, this is how you need to do it. And they'll argue. I mean, look, if I film that, not that any of them old guys would sign off on it, but it would make a great sitcom. It would be perfect.
Yeah. And really, we need to do that one day. Just have a segment, bits and pieces, and everybody kind of hanging out in the back room. And really let some egos kind of mesh together a little.
We'll have to have bouncers, though.
Even over there, you can feel some tension every now and then. You'll let one guy get to talking about how he won something. They're like, well, that idiot. They got lucky. Them fish ain't never done that.
Yep, they'll do that, but they won't do it when the guy they're talking about's in the room.
Well,
there ain't no to your face stuff. That's you wait till they're not there, and then you do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, he's a stupid SOB.
Yeah.
He don't know nothing. Don't listen to him.
But yeah, and that's what's so good about the sport, because it changes every day. Everything changes. And you can look at, even in your elite guys, you'll have somebody gets hot for a little while, and then things change. And then, it's like he's on fire. Scotty's on fire. Scotty's on fire. And then things change, and it gets tough, man. And fishing is a game of ups and downs.
Oh, my God.
And I can't remember who said this, but they said, when things are going good, don't get too high during the good times, and don't get too low during the bad times, because everybody's going to go through.
Everybody's
going to go through.
Everybody. Just ask Kevin Van Dam. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
He'll tell you the same thing.
It's a game
of
right and wrong decisions. Sometimes you make a move and it pays off. Sometimes you make a move and, hey, man, I really hurt myself on that one. But that's what keeps it. That's the allure of staying out there and staying after them, because all of a sudden you just get a feeling. You're running down the lake, and I've done this 100 times. I'm running down the lake, going to another place, and all of a sudden just something in my mind, I whip it over and hit something else and catch 3 big ones. And the guy said, how did you know to come in here? I said, I don't know, man. Something just told me. I just felt it. And that's one of the things. That's one of the great deals. And I've done it 100 times too, pull over and say, I just wasted 30 minutes because there wasn't nothing in here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the great thing about fishing. You never know.
You never know.
Today may be that day.
You never know what you're going to get.
Fishing's like a box of chocolates.
You got that right.
Well, all right. Let's go to, we covered rods. Let's go to reels. What kind of gear ratio, and I know you probably changed this up based on the crankbait itself, but what gear ratios are you looking at when you pick up a cranking rod?
I'm looking at, most of my flipping stuff's a high geared ratio. I'm looking at 7 plus. They got some of these burners now but I want something that when I'm flipping, when that fish hits me slack line, I can pick up real quick and get him. But when my cranking, I really like a lower gear ratio. I can feel that bait better. I like a 6-1 or something like that. I've got some old BB, some of them old loos that are like 5-3 to 1. It's you got to really pack the line on it. But them old BB ones like that, I really like those. But I want a lower gear ratio that I can slow it down where I'm not taking that bait away from a lot of these fish. Because you're making long casts. Some of the square bills and things like that, you can still get that 7-3 to 1, something like that. Some of your moderate range ratios.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk line. What kind of line
God, how long you got?
Well, I think on this card I've got about 2 hours.
Okay, because I think when you talk about line, that opens up a whole new realm of you're looking at. I mean, I don't even know where to start on this. Most of what I'm using monofilament on a lot of my cranking rods. Some I will go to fluorocarbon. Like a fluorocarbon is going to sink on you. So like my jerk baits, some of the stuff you got more feel with it, but it's going to sink on you. I know a lot of guys that have tried using topwater lures with monofilament. And he's like, it just doesn't do right. It doesn't work right. Well, I said, yeah, because the line's sinking. The bait's up top, and you can't walk that thing because your line's down low. It's just, it's one of those things that I like a smaller diameter. If I'm deep cranking, I'll go to a 10 or 12 pound test on a lot of my big plugs, just because you'll let that plug get deeper with a lighter line. If you've got 20 pound test, that lure is not going to do what it's supposed to do. So you can use a lighter line, get that bait down deeper, and when you hook up and you've got pressure on that fish, that reel and that rod are taking up most of your the pressure. It's not the line, because you've got a longer rod, softer tip. It's absorbing all of that pressure right there, where you're not, just tight lining a 6.5 foot rod, and trying to really crank him in. You're letting that rod absorb all that pressure.
I got you. Well, is there a particular color you throw?
I like a clear. I'll go with that green a lot. Now, when I'm saying green, it's not that high-vis yellow. I do like high-vis yellow in certain things, but not with my cranking. I'll go with either a clear or that, a little bit of darker line.
Gotcha. Well, I think that covers it on crankbaits. If you have a crankbait in question that you'd like to ask Lee, you can email him or email me, and I'll get the answer for you. It's the backroadsinfo@gmail.com, or any question actually on fishing. Lee can pretty much cover it all, as you can tell. Lee, there is one bit of news I want to talk. I was sitting here kind of going through, some relevant news that's going on right now, but this just kind of popped up. It doesn't have anything to do with fishing, but I thought it's, what a tragedy. But, do you know about the sub they lost going to the Titanic?
Yeah, we've been kind of keeping up with that, me and my wife.
Yeah, I just read where, and I know this is going to be old news by the time you guys hear this, but we're doing it and it's kind of breaking, that they did find the sub, and it does not look good. It's a debris field, so it looks like there was an implosion at some point early in that in the trip down to the Titanic. Man, I can't imagine.
No, I mean there's nothing you can say about that. It's a tragic deal, and I really feel for all the families and for the people involved there. It's one of those things. I laugh and I cut up and I kid a whole bunch, but man, that's just my heart goes out to these people, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's I can't imagine how far down that is. I mean, that's 2.4 miles straight down, and that's, I don't know, that's just crazy. But anyway, I saw it was breaking news on here, and I thought I'd bring it up and get your thoughts on it, and I'm with you on that. And my condolences to family and friends of everybody that was involved in that. And so let's get on to something a little bit brighter. All right, Rex Holmes Jr. got him locked down. He will be here next week. So Rex from Vapor Trail Scents, he's going to talk to us a little bit about his products. He's going to give us his thoughts on deer hunting. And like I said before, he's a really, really good guy that knows a lot about deer hunting. He knows a lot about deer habit. He spends a lot of times in the woods just watching deer. That's how he developed his 33-point buck. He would actually put it, in use and just sit there and watch how the deer reacted to it. And I don't need to go into it. He'll tell you all about it when he's here. You'll hear that episode next week. We'll also have Lee on to talk a little bit more bass fishing. We're getting to the summer months when it gets a little tougher to catch them. And Lee will give you some good advice on the best way to approach that. Not guaranteeing that you'll catch them, but I mean, if you're listening to him, you have the best chance of anybody. And Kay Donaldson's still going to be on with us. We haven't locked Kay down yet, and I know you talked to her today, Lee. I
talked to her, and she's still on. We've been so busy. Like I said, I have a little more time than she does because she's taking care of the Alabama Bass Trail, and she's got a whole lot going on right now, and I get to show up and drop it in and go out there and try to make it happen.
There you go. Well, man, I know you want to get settled in and get your rod set up and your boat set up just like you like it for tomorrow and for Saturday. And from everybody over here, we wish you good luck this weekend and appreciate you being with us.
Man, thank you. And hey, it's good to talk to you guys. Like I said, been a long, long day, and I hope I wasn't too boring for you.
No, look, anytime you can bring some good fishing information to the table, which you did, and look, I learned too. I by no means know all this stuff that you do. So you actually helped me out too as well. So Lee, get after it and get in there and get some rest.
All right, man, let's get this boat rigged out. I'll see y'all later.
Okay, Lee, appreciate it. All right, that was Mr. Lee Pitts. We appreciate you guys joining us and listening to Lee talk bass fishing, and we're going to do a lot more of that, and we're going to have some great guests. And as always, I thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. And if you don't mind, just hit the follow button wherever you're listening to the program, and we will talk to y'all next week.